Good evening, this is the Oscar expert here with Brother Bro, and it's time for updated Best Picture predictions for October. This is post-festival predictions. How different will they be from the pre-festivals? We've been to TIFF, and we have seen Nickel Boys at NIF. We are yet to see Blitz, that's coming up very soon. And then there's a batch of films that we have not seen yet, but we are predicting off of a lot of knowledge, and most of the films that are going to be in the lineup we have seen now.
This video is a long time coming. I feel there's an urgency to talking about what the hell is going on in the awards race since a lot has changed since the last time we touched on it.
Well, I think it's important that we waited long enough to have seen Nickel Boys and to see that Life of Chuck is not getting a release this year. So first we should talk about what we think is winning Best Picture. Because up until now we have had Sing Sing, and we were saying, oh, maybe something stronger comes out at the festivals that is the real challenger to Sing Sing.
But wait. Should we even frame it as what challenges Sing Sing? Because I don't think we should anymore. Sing Sing is simply a film that could be overlooked as a frontrunner altogether just because of its low visibility and its very iffy awards campaign. And also, A24 so far has not really campaigned the movie. They could change their ways. I would love to see it.
Yeah, but everything they've been doing has had low visibility. As in, they've done a Vanity Fair video. They've had Coleman Domingo on Good Morning America. Nobody's watching.
But it's like, you do those things and then you don't even put it in wide release for people to experience the film. It's not enough. I would say it's just not enough.
Here's the thing, though. I think there's plenty to blame A24 for. But also, I think that clearly the movie has some level of, like, people are just not interested. There's just not something inherent about the movie that's hooking people. Maybe blame it on the marketing. I don't know.
You could also, say racism's a part of it too.
Either way, I think A24 is going to try to revive the movie at the end of the year by screening it directly to Academy members, and I think this can work really well. It has potential to work well, because if it's anything like my TIFF screening last year, you bring out those actors after the movie's over, you're freaking sold on that movie, and everybody who sees it absolutely loves it. But unfortunately, there's just low interest on the movie. And there's other films that have way more buzz.
And then them having The Brutalist on top of that. I don't know how strong they're going to campaign. I don't know how much they believe in that film. It didn't actually make them that much money.
I mean, they should believe in it enough to get it into a couple acting, screenplay, picture. We'll see if people are biting. Look,
we also know that when a film does well at the box office, it's more likely to get a campaign.
I've never seen anything like this, honestly, where I think I'm so sold on a movie as an awards contender, and it's just not. Nobody's biting it.
I still think this film is strong enough to get nominations, and I think enough people will see it. But I don't think we can seriously say this is a front runner. I don't see it winning at this point.
No, not unless something major happens at the end of the year, a la Coda, and I'm not going to.
And look. It comes down to this. Coda beat Power of the Dog. Was Power of the Dog that strong? I would argue no. No, Power of the Dog was not that strong. It was just too cerebral for folks. It was popular with critics, but it wasn't popular enough with audiences. The number one film that I think stands a chance to win is Anora. It could be that we're in this little bubble where everyone around me loves Anora. It's like a Truman Show, but it's just Anora love. Everywhere I go, people are shouting about Anora at every festival. It's people's favorite film overall. It won Cannes. It placed at TIFF without even trying. Anora has the best buzz of any indie film this year. This being Sean Baker's most acclaimed film that many people are saying like it's his time to get an Oscar for, at least in screenplay, if not director. That also helps Anora immensely. Like, Sean Baker is a widely beloved filmmaker, and even if you don't like every one of his films, chances are you love something he's done. Or you love this. A filmmaker finally getting their flowers is very important. So that's what Anora has going for it. Strong performances. It's probably going to win screenplay.
So I've seen Anora twice now. I think it's a great movie, but still when I watch it, it doesn't seem like a movie that would win Best Picture. Yeah. And even less so than other movies that kind of have to go through a hump in my mind for me to see them as an awards film. Moonlight, Parasite, Everything Everywhere, unconventional winners. I mean, they happen. But Anora, something about it is even in the context of those movies, it's a little weird. I think it can happen, though, because sometimes you just have to keep reading the room. Like, the movie's been around since Cannes.
Yeah.
We'd never really believed that it could win, but now you put your ear out and, like, that's the movie people are screaming
That's
about.
what I'm saying, though. What if it's some kind of echo chamber and it doesn't resonate past
Here's why I think it's not an echo chamber. It played well at Cannes. then it played really well at TIFF. And then it's playing really well at NIF. And it's playing well everywhere it goes. And everywhere it goes, it is the hottest ticket. When I bought public tickets for NIF, it was the one film where every screening said that it was standby only before I even had time to get in and purchase the tickets.
It's also a film I think audiences are going to really enjoy because it's actually laugh out loud funny at times, often hilarious.
Oh, no. At both my screenings at TIFF and NIF, it is every cast member gets an applause moment. People are freaking out. It's very funny. Really plays the crowd well.
Yeah.
And then that moment at the end, like, really syncs with people. And they're like, damn.
How do we articulate why it's not a conventional Best Picture winning film?
Well, from the opening shot, there's a lot of sex.
Yeah.
Especially the first 30 minutes.
It has very indie sensibilities, doesn't it?
Yeah. There's nothing about it that's Oscar bait.
Like, a lot of the lighting it seems to be natural and practical lighting, for example. It's not highly polished. And it also takes its time, right? Like, it builds this story very slowly, and it almost seems to be like going in circles in the middle. I mean, Sean Baker's films always kind of feel like they're a little meandering, no? It really does sew it up in the final act, but like that second half does feel a little bit long, no?
It doesn't have a conventional plot and the emotional highs and lows that most films are trying to go for. Like, it has emotional highs and lows, but it doesn't seem to be trying to take you on the same ride that, you know, an Oscar bait movie would take you on.
Sure.
All that being said, like, the movie can win screenplay, the movie can win actress or director, and I think it's going to do really well. I think that we're going to see this film get nominated for SAG Ensemble, and it'll be an early sign that, wow, this movie's doing really well. Maybe it'll even freaking win SAG Ensemble if Amelia Perez or Sing Sing can't quite get there.
That'd be really interesting, because Ensemble's not a place where I saw Anora getting nominated initially. But based on having generally amazing buzz, there's no reason not to do it. If I look at all of the factors, Anora has the most going for it.
The Brutalist is a movie that I think can win. It has massive acclaim, very similar levels of acclaim to Anora, but it's Oscar bait in the sense that it's hearkening back to this time in filmmaking where filmmakers could make these 3.5-hour epics that are exploring big themes. The film really transports you back into that feeling of watching an old American classic.
Yeah.
This is what we were speculating the movie would be like before TIFF, and, you know, I guess we can give ourselves a bit of a pat on the back because we did have Anora in before the festivals. I mean, it was based on what other people were saying, early words, early chirpings, but, you know, a lot of people were not so sure about it, and now it's obviously a top 3.
It's a lock for many, many nominations.
10 nomination movie, 3 acting, like definitely directing.
It's just impressive on every level. The people who dislike it the most are like, oh, it was an 8 out of 10. Everyone I talk to at least like respects the hell out of it. There is only goodwill for the film, its actors, its director. It's also been picked up by A24. A24 has Sing Sing. Which film is bigger? It's The Brutalist. I'm so sorry. It also looks bad for Sing Sing.
They're releasing The Brutalist around Christmas in limited release, so this is one of those, you know, really late year released movies that is only going to be wide in like January. And this is actually, you know, it's a good position to be in to like guarantee all those nominations, but if you look back, this is not the best position to be in to win Best Picture. And there have been other films that have come out around Christmas. I'm thinking about The Revenant in 1917. That maybe seemed like they could be a threat to win, but just didn't happen. And the movie that comes out in like October, November, ends up winning Best Picture.
You know, maybe you could summarize that as sustained buzz. Like sustained buzz is better than that flashbulb moment at the end of the year. And also, The Brutalist positioning itself like that, I think it actually is smart. I know people say there's a curse with that. It was coming out in December, but The Brutalist is not guaranteed to make money. It's smart to do the same release strategy as what they did with Zone of Interest last year. They released that film during December, and then when it got nominations, they blasted it into wide release, and that thing made $50 million.
Worldwide. A lot of it was international.
But nonetheless, I mean, Zone of Interest, the fact that that made money, and that did pretty well box office wise,
which is to say that the interest of the movie might not be as high unless people see it as an awards film. Where The Brutalist is very challenging to not put it number 1 is the amount of wins that I think it can get.
Right, yeah.
Mainly, I think that Adrian Brody is the front runner. Guy Pearce might just win. Felicity Jones, like, I thought watching the movie that could happen, but I'm not seeing the buzz.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you have 2 actors winning, my God, it's hard to not win Best Picture off of that alone. And then,
or at least
on top of that, I think it can get cinematography and score as tech wins.
I think it's taking cinematography and score. I think it's taking those.
And directing is going to be very strong. Critics groups, like, it's going to win some directing precursors and be very tight competition with Anora.
The Brutalist is definitely contending to win those critics groups. That and Anora, I think, are going to be splitting.
This is the thing for me, though, is that if it is winning 2 acting and 2 text, like, I cannot predict it for a director on top of that unless I actually think it's winning Best Picture.
If you're going to do wins for The Brutalist in acting and directing, I think you have to say it's winning Best Picture.
Well, to that note, it could be like The Pianist, which won directing and lead actor and did not win Best Picture.
It would just be such a good turnout to not win Best Picture, but maybe there's a world where Anora's so strong in picture that it doesn't really matter, and Anora can take 3 awards. They could be pretty neck and neck. However, I have more of a feeling that The Brutalist is a harder sell. Brady Corbett's coming onto the scene as a fresh face for many people. They may or may not have liked his first film. None of them were nearly as acclaimed. And it's also a cerebral film. It's not as immediately gratifying as Anora, unless you're like a complete cinephile, in which maybe it is.
It's got its emotional moments, though.
But it's also an intellectual film. Very intellectually rigorous.
Especially the end of the movie seems to be losing people on that emotional level. I think it's got like this quiet devastation to it, but that's the kind of thing that might not work for everybody. People might want more of a gut punch.
Also, the film's messaging, you really got to be down for a scathing critique of capitalism to fully embrace the Brutalist. And it does
what is Parasite?
And it does it in a fantastic... Yeah, sure, Parasite's like that, but I think the Brutalist is even more like cutting.
And it's long.
I just think
it's long.
It's not quite as nice and as fun as Anora, and that might give it Anora the edge.
I just think that the Brutalist feels like Aroma and Power of the Dog, even if it may be closer and has greater potential to win those acting prizes.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Anora's like the more populist film.
So Amelia Perez, as divisive as it seems to be, like among people I talk to at festivals, like, there are just a lot of people who are straight up like, no, that wasn't even good. I don't even talk to that many people who are in love with it. The matter is this. The film came in second for the People's Choice, and it clearly has its audience. You may not be able to see it, but it does have an audience, and Netflix is doing the best job promoting the movie with the many trailers, the way that they're gonna market Saldana, Gascon, and Selena Gomez as this like grand ensemble trio is going to really work for people. It's a cast that I'm sure that people want to be in the room with during awards season.
I mean, audiences are eating it up. It has a lot of prestige. It's got some great performances, potential to win acting nominations.
It's got technicals.
Yeah, the nomination ceiling's ridiculously high if they want to really go all in on it. I think a lot of branches can get a piece of this. If you look at Letterboxd, you might say, okay, 3.6 isn't that good, but there's a lot of 4 out of 5, and there is a significant amount of 4.5 and 5 out of 5s, okay? That means some people love the film. That's very important. I am reminded of Elvis, actually, when I think of Amelia Perez. I like this more than Elvis, but Elvis was a film that, it was more populist, didn't quite have that critical acclaim, but was well regarded in technical and acting areas.
The Oscar normies are gonna love the movie.
Yeah.
I even think that it may have a 70-something with audiences on Rotten Tomatoes, but it's like the type of people that like it is very specifically the Academy. Oscar voters who want like a warm movie to clap to. Some people think this movie can win Best Picture. I simply think that's too difficult to accept because I know how divisive the movie is with some. I cannot imagine this movie being the consensus to win. It makes no sense.
Here's Amelia Perez. A lot of people like it. A lot of people don't like it. Some people love it. Does that sound like a Best Picture winner, though? Mostly for Best Picture winner, it has to be broadly consensus that it's a really good film, and a lot of people have to love it. And that's just not Amelia Perez. It's not quite there with critics. It's not quite there with people on Letterboxd. The piece where I empathize with making an argument for the win is that you could put together a win package for it. You could. With an actor. You could say it could win director. But
I don't like. I think it's silly when people
say it could win SAG Ensemble.
Baker and Corbett are just. How do you not think that's stronger than Audiard?
I think Audiard gets the nomination, but I think it's too. I think most people are going to be like, yeah, we know Amelia Perez isn't winning, but look, some people make that argument. If you thought Amelia Perez was in jeopardy for a nomination, the People's Choice ranking number 2 should put your fucking worry to bed, though.
I don't think there's any reason to think that Dune has slipped or anything of the sort. I mean, that is going to get a lot of tech nominations. We'll see if it, stays in for adapted screenplay and director. That's not that hard, but maybe it's volatile in those categories.
Dune Part 2, I'm just confident that that's going to get nominations.
A firm number 5, I think.
It'll win less text, though, I think, than the first year.
Yes.
Part of that is because it's not a pandemic year, and we have more films with bigger budgets, but also The Brutalist, I think, is going to take a couple of the awards that the first Dune won.
And we'll see if maybe a Gladiator can take a couple of the other ones.
Yeah, right. 11% of people still think Dune is winning. This table is updated every month, so there are no predictions in this table that are more than a month old.
They're just those are just a bunch of silly billies.
I know they're silly, but they actually think Dune's winning. It's not just it's not like
let them frolic in their fantasy land.
The general stats that are kind of interesting for Award Expert, which, by the way, if you're not on Award Expert making your predictions, go download it. It's free. Best place to store your Oscar predictions, and you can see that Anora has 49% of people think it's going to win. 20% think The Brutalist will win at a solid number 2. 11% think Dune Part 2. 12% think Sing Sing. That's probably going to continue to go down.
Sing Sing used to be number 1, I think.
It slid a whole lot, and everything else is pretty low. Emilia Perez has 4% of people who think it's going to win. Everything else is 1 or 0%. Next in line is a film I think is not likely to win anything, even though some people would disagree, but it's looking great for nominations in general, and that's Conclave.
It might win adapted.
It might win adapted screenplay. Some people think it will win Best Actor. I'm more skeptical on that because I'm a believer in Adrian Brody.
The point is this. You ask yourself a few questions. Is Conclave getting nominated for Ralph Fiennes and Best Actor? The answer is yes. Is it locked for adapted screenplay? Pretty much.
Yeah.
Is it getting score? Yeah. Is it getting editing? Yeah, probably. I mean, it's enough. It's just enough. The movie is Oscar bait. It was well liked at TIFF. It was well liked at Telluride. People like the movie. It's got like a really solid 3.8 on Letterboxd.
Yep.
Yeah. Solid 3.8.
I don't think it's a great movie. I think it's a very good movie. And I think that's how most people feel about it.
I can imagine a Best Picture lineup where it slips and it's kind of like a number 8, but I don't have more confidence in something else at the moment.
Yeah. We could talk about Blitz right now, but I don't know if it belongs at number 7. It's one of few films that we haven't seen in the Best Picture race.
But we're going to see it in like a week.
We're going to see it next Friday at New York Film Festival, and it will have reactions from London Film Festival before that. Blitz is an interesting case. I still think it's going to get nominated, but I don't think it's going to be great, and I think it wouldn't stand a chance in a year of 5 slots. I think it gets in based on the fact that there's 10 slots, and it can get a couple techs, and that Saoirse Ronan can carry herself to a supporting actress nomination.
Yeah, maybe.
So it's kind of like it's doing the bare minimum to get nominated. I think it will be well crafted, but not like a daring movie. It's not going to take enough risks to blow people away.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be McQueen's most acclaimed movie, but I think it will be a very commercial play, and the average Oscar voter is going to think it's really good.
Yeah,
right.
And again, my appeal for this is BAFTAs are going to go for it.
You don't even know that for sure.
I don't know it for sure, but it seems pretty likely that they would.
I mean, I feel like Critics' Choice will put it in the 10, PGA in the 10. It's not that hard to imagine. I mean, it seems like it's locked for some of these tech awards.
Now, Blitz could be News of the World. It's not 100% guaranteed to get nominated, where it gets some nominations below the line, but can't quite find its way into Best Picture. And it could also be Nightmare Alley, where it's on the cusp. That was like number 10, though.
The question is this. If it's not amazing, but it's like a tearjerker that your parents will love.
Love?
Yeah, they might. Like maybe it's.
What
like
if everyone just likes it?
Everyone just likes it.
What if everyone just likes it, and some people think it's not that good?
Yeah, but if we're talking critics, that's fine. But I
need to see some people who love it.
There might be like audiences who are really into it.
Yeah, I don't want to be too confident about Blitz. That's all I'm saying.
I don't really know what else, because I actually think it's interesting that sometimes we're like, oh my god, I have like 12 movies. I don't know what to do with them after festivals, and right now I'm like, okay, I have 6 movies that I'm like pretty confident on, and everything else has some volatility to it.
Yeah, we have a lot of possibilities for these final few slots. A Real Pain has had an interesting comeback in my eyes. Maybe if you've believed in A Real Pain from the beginning, I commend you. I pat you on the back.
There was only one predictions video, which was the last predictions video, where I kind of lost hope on it. But I've always said that it was like top 13.
That's good for you.
But and what it is that Culkin can get nominated.
Yeah.
We're still TBD on where he's placed, but we speculate it'll be supporting. Either way, I think he would get nominated at this point. And then screenplay, like most people, and your community is probably included, think that the film is getting screenplay and supporting actor. Now, yeah, sure, there are films like Can You Ever Forgive Me, Lost Daughter, Two Popes that get screenplay and acting nominations and they don't get picture. That's possible, but, if that happened, I think there's definitely a path for the movie in Best Picture.
Yeah.
It's easy to like.
It's a breezy watch. It's funny, very funny, like hilarious. The writing is so sharp, and Culkin's performance is so outstanding that you can't help yourself but buzz about it. This is getting a really nice treatment from Searchlight. They went to Telluride with it, and everybody at Telluride was buzzing. They said it has great hype, and it seems like it's on the right track.
I'm also curious because I'm going to see it next week at a public screening in New York Film Festival. Curious to see how it plays there. I'm sure there will be a lot of big laughs, you know? The movie also has an interesting way of exploring like Jewish identity. And also themes of generational trauma just in general have been pretty popular with like indie films succeeding at the Oscars as of late.
Yeah, so I can see some people connecting it to it on a very personal level, and that might be enough to get the passion for a Best Picture nomination. Because the one piece I didn't quite see at Sundance, or that I was curious about, was could you actually be so passionate about this film to say it's like your #1 of the year? I think some people might feel that way.
That's the thing, is it feels like maybe more of a common top 10er than a #1.
Right.
But it is a very soulful movie. It's well acted, well written. So I'm going to put it in because I do have confidence in screenplays and supporting actor right now.
That's where I'm at with it. I don't think it's a lock, but it's one of the stronger films that's struggling for that bottom 5, and it's already been seen, right? Because I could put another film in there that I haven't seen and just say, oh, I think it's going to be great. But I truly don't know.
Kieran Culkin is so charming and so well liked right now that I almost feel that he alone is bringing this film into Best Picture, because whenever he does an interview, like, it's not just him campaigning solo. Like, he so is the movie in many ways.
And it's possible if the film's in Best Picture, I really have to consider whether he could win.
I agree.
Really have to
I
consider
agree with that too.
I'm saying this in last video, I took him out of my nominations because I was like, I don't know if A Real Pain's going to do anything. I stand corrected. I think it's going to be a strong player, and it looks good so far.
It's not guaranteed. I mean, the max nomination package is pretty much just 3.
Despite A Complete Unknown coming out later, I think this is going to be Searchlight's best bet at Best Picture, despite A Complete Unknown. I think it's going to be closer than A Complete Unknown is, and we have to admit that if we're thinking about A Complete Unknown getting in, it's just speculation. You don't know whether it's good. You just don't know, and I kind of don't think it looks amazing. I think it looks fine.
I mean, the test screenings kind of affirm what I feel like the movie's going to be, which is a decent biopic that doesn't have anything amazing or spectacular about it.
I mean, I could put A Complete Unknown in, and I'd be justified in doing so, but I'd kind of be creating a story that hasn't happened yet.
If A Complete Unknown does get Best Picture, I think it can get 2 acting nominations, maybe a sound nomination. I don't know, maybe editing. Some people think cinematography. I'm like, I think that sounds a little silly to me. And it also doesn't seem like it'll get screenplay or director like by a long shot.
Yeah. The next in line, #9, I have Nickel Boys.
I would maybe be willing to put Nickel Boys at #8.
I would too.
Especially because we think that it's getting director.
I think I have more confidence in Nickel Boys than many of the popular prognosticators have. You could call it bias, sure. I am basing it a lot on the fact that I've seen the film, but it also didn't really move too much in my predictions from before and after seeing it. So it's not like I saw it and loved it and then moved it up. Just listening to the buzz led me to believe that this could be strong in picture, director, screenplay, maybe an acting nomination, and cinematography. Seeing the film has just affirmed what I already thought, and I do think the comparisons to Zone of Interest are warranted. It's a really important film. The subject matter, at the very least, you're going to take away a piece of American history, a piece of African American history that's really important. It's a love story, it's a story of companionship, and it's so well crafted that you just can't ignore it. And if the Academy didn't nominate this, I think it would be outrageous. Like, for a film of this quality to be ignored, it would just be a stain on their reputation, especially because of the achievement that it is for like the African American talent here.
The reaction from prognosticators so far is very mixed on whether this film will play, and a lot of the people who were at Telluride say that the film's far too mixed to get into the conversation.
I've heard the word divisive thrown at it, and I think it's somewhat true, but I think it's being lost in the conversation about whether it's divisive or not, for the fact that most people think it's really good. And I'm gonna just point straight to Letterboxd here. Letterboxd, you can see how some people do not like the film, but it has a majority of 4 to 5 star ratings, which are really strong. That's a lot of passion.
Divisiveness on a movie is an interesting topic. So I'll take Conclave as like the sort of opposite, where everybody likes it, but I don't know how many people think it's like that #1 top 3 of the year.
Right.
Whereas Nickel Boys, maybe more people are on the dislike side, but more people think it's one of the top 5 movies of the year, or maybe #1 movie of the year. That is actually maybe healthier to get into Best Picture, arguably, because getting into Best Picture depends on how many people are voting for you at the top. The Zone of Interest actually didn't seem to be that divisive, and even the audience scores on that movie were shockingly high, so maybe I'll compare this to The Tree of Life instead, because that had a mere 85% on Rotten Tomatoes, was considered very divisive, but it got in because the people who love that movie love that movie. And I talked to a lot of people after my Nickel Boy screening. Yeah, it was a press screening, but they were like, man, they were just knocked out by it.
And also, if you tell someone like, I think that's gonna get Academy Awards, after seeing it, they'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. It's really fucking good. It's awards prestige written all over it.
The fact that it's exploring an important part of American history, the fact that the technical elements are so marvelous and so worthy of like talking about and having in the conversation. Also, it's Amazon's only real big contender, Amazon MGM, unless MGM pushes out challengers again. I don't know how the movie doesn't get into director if it's in Best Picture. I also thought that Anjanou Ellis made a lot of sense to be nominated, and I would personally probably have her in my top 5. Even though a lot of people seem to think that she just didn't have enough screen time in the movie, I felt that she left enough of an impression where that's possible. Yep. I don't see how some pundits don't think this is a cinematography contender. Like, oh my goodness, what an achievement to shoot it in POV. I just think there's too much going for it. Where like, I don't quite buy that it's too divisive. Maybe I'm being optimistic.
Metacritic, it's at an 89 with 12 reviews. Like,
wow. It has a 78 on Rotten Tomatoes, which I think will go up a little bit because it's kind of ridiculous and I don't understand it.
That said, it is bottom 5. It's the little indie that could.
I also do want to mention that it's very moving. The end leaves a big impact. Even if you're a bit lost in the weeds in the middle and the style's a bit much, I think that the end is going to punch you in the gut.
Many have noted, and I will echo, that the past for this film may depend on certain critics groups like New York film critics or LA film critics giving this film a big prize, and it seems well positioned to do that.
Well, we'll see. Nora and Brutalist might have more of a consensus there.
Yeah, but by the time those critics do their awards, they're going to look at Nora and Brutalist and go, they have enough attention. If there's an alternative for something they might want to award, it could be Nickel Boys. Good enough for top 10. That's what I gotta say. Good enough for top 10. I don't know what to do with number 10.
I'm actually considering Gladiator 2 now. All the early word is like, this is actually good.
Let's be specific. What's the early word?
Test screening reactions and things that I've heard from people who have heard from people.
Well, also reactions from CinemaCon where they didn't even see the whole movie. They just saw some clips.
Sure. We've seen the trailer though, so we know. I mean, I think the movie just looks like a big action entertainment blockbuster spectacle escapist thing, and you know, it's dealing with some themes about like your legacy and like dealing with your rage. But it's hard for me to imagine that's going to resonate on a deep level with people. And it seems like if this was in the Oscar conversation, what would stick is just that it's really impressive filmmaking that really reminds us of what's great about films of the past.
And it definitely can't have the reputation that this was an unnecessary sequel that didn't need to exist.
Which a lot of people are anticipating.
Yeah, it's not like Avatar where that sequel was earned by James Cameron, and it's like, yeah, of course, we've been waiting for Avatar 2. Of course, Gladiator 2, there's more hostility. It feels like they're remaking a Hollywood classic. I don't know why people have that impression. Like, Ridley Scott's making it. He can do what he wants. He made the first one.
I mean, people went to see Beetlejuice. They went out for that movie.
I don't know.
There could be interest in it in that way. It's just hard to tell.
Gladiator 2 doesn't look like it'll be better than the first. It just looks like it might be more maybe visually stunning than the first.
I mean, maybe it's like big tearjerker like the first, and people are really moved by it. That's what I'm saying.
That's what I don't think.
A surprise element that you don't see coming. Is all I'm saying.
I'm looking at Gladiator 2 because the end of the year we usually get something. So there's usually something we haven't seen yet that premieres late and gets claimed. This film I already have in for a bunch of nominations, including an acting nomination for Denzel Washington. That's why I'm considering it, because
we know it's going to
get a lot of tech. It'll get more nominations than Napoleon. I also think the studio is hyping it up, and that's why you're seeing it on some major critics lists who have connections to the studio. They want it to happen. They're going to campaign it. And hey, that's important to know. It's important to know that they see it as a prestige film. So this is definitely a maybe for me. I just have a feeling that it's not going to be that serious of a movie. It looks like kind of goofy and fun, and that it's mostly trying to be over the top and like a crazy audience experience. I'm skeptical that the film's gonna have like great character development and great story.
Top Gun Maverick was a surprise, but I don't think there's gonna be a Top Gun Maverick every single year. Gladiator won one Best Picture, but that seems like the type of contender from another era.
Ridley Scott is hit or miss. He's everything in between too. I'm just skeptical of Gladiator 2. But here's the thing, if you look at the blockbusters in the lineup, you don't have all that much, and it does slot in nicely because usually you have like 2 or 3 blockbusting films that are very populist. You lost Joker Folie à Deux, so that's gone. Well, you have Dune. That's
Emilia Perez could become a streaming hit, maybe.
Sure. Sure.
And Blitz might be a decently sized movie.
So that's why Gladiator 2, actually, that's where it makes the most sense. It would balance out like the populism of the lineup. The best thing it has going for it is that it could just be entertaining as hell and nuts. That's actually the best I see. I don't see it being taken very seriously as a drama.
But I would include, like, hearkening back to that feeling of, man, they don't make them like they used to.
Maybe.
If successful, it would.
I also think Critics' Choice might go for it in Best Picture.
Critics' Choice are going to go for fucking Wicked, so I don't want to hear about
Gladiator 2 has a good chance at PGA. Saturday night, we've seen the film. When we exited, we both agreed that it was an Oscar player. I think it's technically very well made, well directed, well crafted. The writing is solid, it's funny, it's original, it's unique. It has a topical subject matter for the industry, right? So maybe not everybody feels the birth of Saturday Night Live is that important of a subject matter, but many people do. It is just the fact of it that some people think that's really important and they're eager to see that film. Also, especially older voters who grew up during that time and are able to relate to the period authenticity. I think this film is truly more divisive, but it does have a love it cohort.
People in the industry will go, man, yeah, I can totally relate to like that chaos on a film set. Like we've all been there. It is a movie about, taking a risk on something you really believe in. That's also a message that many creatives can identify with. Now, here's a kind of a problem here, though. The movie didn't seem to play as well as we thought it would at festivals like Telluride and TIFF, where it got its applauses, but at the end of the day, the film did not rank for People's Choice, and it hurts even a bit more because Jason Reitman is a Toronto native. So it's like that factor didn't even help get into the top 3.
I was predicting this film to fucking win. And of course, I was smacked across the face when it didn't even place.
I think the Letterboxd looks like Emilia Perez right now.
Yeah, it does.
Where it actually does have some of those people who are, 4 stars and north of 4 stars. Like there's a decent chunk of those, but a lot of people feel the movie's just a 3-star movie and
like
fun,
totally forgettable and you just throw it away after you're done with it. It's a sugar high and then you never think about it again. Some people feel that way about it.
Well, that's the thing. It might be that, and the fact that it's coming out next week in wide release. Also, that's not a good time to be a sugar high.
And here's the other thing against it. Yeah, that's true as well. And we don't know how well it's going to do at the box office. I'm not sure how much buzz this thing's getting. It's hard to gauge. But what nominations is this getting? It doesn't have that high of a ceiling. I think it could get 4 at most. Score, editing, screenplay, picture. I don't think any acting nominations coming along with it.
It could get SAG Ensemble, though.
It could get SAG Ensemble.
Some cards.
Could get WGA, could get PGA. The point is, even if it does get nominated, it'll be on the bubble like the whole year. We're not even probably going to be sure if it's getting nominated on Oscar.
I mean, it could get, Golden Globes, it can get comedy musical. BAFTA probably
I can see Critics' Choice going for it, too.
Maybe.
Because it's more populist.
A lot of people think that Saturday Night is just kind of dead, though. Dead on arrival. And
I wouldn't go there.
I don't think it's quite there, but I do see the argument. Also, for it to be, trying to squeeze it into like an 8, 9, or 10 slot, it's also not the best position to be in if you're trying to get editing as one of your nominations. Very weak package if it's just screenplay, picture, score. So maybe it actually is the literal number 10. We don't know if it's going to get in. Like, it doesn't make that much sense, but because we have a locked in 10, you have to get in something. They go with the movie that's getting a screenplay and SAG Ensemble, like Women Talking did.
It could even end up with those 2 nominations at the end of the day. That's true.
And it's kind of Oscar bait, as we said. It has an appeal to the industry. I don't think it's going to do great with critics groups, although, I do agree maybe the Critics' Choice goes for it. But I'm not really sure if I want it at number 10 or not.
Yeah, weirdly, it has a lot going for it, and I don't want to write it off, but at the same time, the critic reviews aren't great. Like, it is actually really not good. It is a 60 on Metacritic. That's in the yellow, and it's slowly going down. So critics are not going out for this. And you want to have the critics on your side so they can hype your film up before you start heading into the Golden Globes and the Critics' Choice. It's on the bubble. That's all I gotta say.
September 5th. What is going on with this movie? It premiered out of competition at Venice and then went to Telluride and really made a splash at Telluride. Like, if you were at Telluride, you believe in this movie. All the pundits who were at Telluride are predicting the damn movie, but nobody else.
Yeah.
Many other people don't.
There's a little bubble that saw the movie at Telluride and got way hyped up on it. It didn't even make a splash at Venice. And the reason it wasn't at TIFF was because they thought it might stir up some controversy, so they did not invite it to screen.
Yeah, well, we should talk about that controversy. I mean, the movie is about a TV news team that's dealing with live coverage of the Munich hostage crisis.
When a Palestinian militant group kidnapped members of the Israeli Olympic team and its coaches and held them hostage, demanding that Israel release hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. And the film was made before the Gaza war. So it's not a film that's addressing that, and I think some people think, well, that's the point. The film is not nuanced enough to justify its existence in the modern day when we need nuance. Like, I think that's a fair argument.
It seems like most people who see the movie think that taking the movie at face value, being about a newsroom that has to decide what to do in the current moment as this crisis is going on, I think most people will probably take the film at that face value.
I'm not sure how this will affect the Oscar race, because I think for most people the film won't feel controversial. But because it's such a issue at the moment, and justifiably so, like, this is an important issue, the film could suffer from people like boycotting its existence or those who honor it. I've also read that there is a lack of political side taking in the film, so it might just sidestep it enough and not engage directly.
It doesn't engage
issues,
directly
yeah,
in it at all.
That it might work on its own. But nonetheless, like, from what I know about that documentary about Russian soldiers, like, that was not a propaganda piece, and people still boycotted it because they used that sort of attention to target their activism. The film's sort of like a lightning rod. Yes, those critics from Telluride seem to believe that the film has the stuff for a nomination. It has a 3.5 on Letterboxd. It seems like a solid, 7 or an 8 out of 10.
It plays very much into the type of Oscar movie that Spotlight and The Post were.
It's a journalism thriller.
And everybody's being campaigned and supporting, which is an official announcement, just like Spotlight. So if you want, you can say Peter Sarsgaard's getting his first nomination, and John Majaro, like, at the film's very best day is number 2, and they're both nominated. I don't think it's going to happen. And then you have Leonie Benesch, who's a potential supporting actress contender. The screenplay, people say, is very good. The editing, people say, is good. So that's the package. Like, it could manifest. It's hard to tell, though, because to my eyes and to many others, it seems like a random ass movie that is being hyped up for no reason. I don't know, maybe it comes and goes. But Paramount did buy it, and they are planning on mounting an awards campaign. We will see. I don't know if, like, there's enough evidence to put it in yet. I know it has its believers, but I might just need to kind of wait and see on it. I'm not really sure.
I don't know whether just to plug my ears and ignore it, and I feel like not including it in my Best Picture list is doing exactly that. There are people who are starting to put it in who I actually trust, and they're not just putting it in at number 10, they're sticking it right into the middle. And they're saying, I feel confident that this is going to be a player. We don't know how the film's going to play to an audience. We don't know if the controversy is going to make people not want to touch it. And those are the unknowns. Can it fit into the year, into the 10? Absolutely.
What about, do people know what it is, and are they going to see it?
Yeah, people don't know what it is right now because it just got acquired. It had no
What is the current 2024 interest in this type of story? With this particular ensemble where nobody themselves is a huge draw and neither is the director?
I mean, those kind of films are what would win Oscars back in the day.
Cool.
So you position it as an awards
back
film.
in the day. It had bigger people in the cast. Spotlight had Michael Keaton, Mark Ruffalo, and Rachel McAdams. The Post had Meryl Streep and was directed by Steven Spielberg. It had Tom Hanks in it.
Yeah, maybe the most unfortunate thing about it is that there's no one really in the cast that people know.
I mean, I like the cast. Like, I've seen a lot of good performances from these people, but I don't believe any of them to be like a main draw.
You are right that it takes a bigger actor to draw attention towards a project like that. But it'll be campaigned directly to awards voters, and will they respond? They'll probably like it. It did well on those Telluride lists where they rank people's favorites, and it was beating many films that you have in your list.
The Apprentice, a lot of people, whenever I bring this up to people, they're like, no. Nah, no way. That movie's done. It's dead. But it's like, bro, if Sebastian Stan can get in, which he can, and the movie can get into supporting actor, which maybe, and then maybe screenplay, like, why wouldn't the Academy, who loves Adam McKay, loves films that dunk on Trump, why wouldn't they like this movie a lot? It's also, like, generally well liked. It's not the most acclaimed movie of the year. It's in the 60s on Metacritic.
It has a 60 on Metacritic.
Yeah, that kind of sucks.
And it has no reviews above 83. I haven't met anybody who loves it. I've met people who like it a lot. I like it a lot. I think some people think it's important, but it kind of does the bare minimum to be important.
The main argument seems to be that people think that there's a lack of an interest in the film, which I'm not convinced about. There actually may be a big interest from the CNN viewing academy who is thinking about Trump all the damn time. I don't quite see the passion, but I also wouldn't dismiss it as hard as other people are.
And maybe it will do unexpectedly well at the box office. I don't think there's that much visibility on it, but maybe once it comes out, it'll be a popular news story and a subject that will drive people into theaters.
Now let's talk about The Room Next Door. So from my viewing of the movie, as well as talking to everybody at TIFF about it, I do not understand why people would put The Room Next Door in your top 10 unless you are blindly like accepting the Venice Golden Lion as being gospel when it's not, because it's a juried prize. I think winning the Palm is a bigger deal and more people hear about who wins the Palm than who wins the Golden Lion. Happening won the Golden Lion. All the Beauty and the Bloodshed won the Golden Lion. Those movies didn't make that big of a splash. And so you could say, well, you know, Room Next Door, people already know about it, so it's big news that it won. Okay, but who likes it? Every critic says that it's mid Almodovar. And in fact, if you look at like the ranking of his films on Letterboxd, this is towards the back of the pack.
Yeah.
For like,
it's one of his least acclaimed films in his entire career. So the only thing you have going for it
is your little Golden Lion.
It's the Golden Lion, and that's a juried prize. The TIFF prize means a lot because it's an audience award.
You're getting a larger sample size.
Yeah, and the jury is made up of people with their own relationships with the filmmakers. Some have speculated many on this Venice jury had relationship with Almodovar, and they just want to see him get some flowers.
And let's be honest, like a 70 on Metacritic for an Almodovar film is not great.
Yeah.
Then is it getting great audience reviews? Also, no. There's no reason to think that audiences will like this better than critics. Just from the word on the ground at TIFF, like people aren't vibing that hard with it. It's a bit strange, and it seems that the soapy aspects are getting a bit lost in translation for people. I don't see why this would play well to Academy members. I'm not understanding. When a filmmaker never had a film in Best Picture before and then is like, oh, they're overdue, like it's time to get this filmmaker in, it's usually one of their best movies.
Yeah, this is considered one of his most okay films by critics who usually love his work, who have given his past 2 films above 85 on Metacritic. And this one is a 70! 70! I can't think of another example of a film that was supposed to be for critics, that was only for indie audiences to like, that had mid reviews and still got into Best Picture. It doesn't happen. You have to be either populist with bad reviews, or you have to have just really good reviews. Yes, it being in English boosts it for the Oscars. Okay, sure, but that's not enough. I am a little scared the Golden Globes might eat it up, because Sony Pictures Classics does a very nice job campaigning to those Golden Globe voters.
They know where the Globe's G-spot is. Let's just put it that way.
And there's a lot of slots at Golden Globes where Room Next Door can get in, including Best Drama Actress. I have a feeling it being international could attract more people to nominate Almodovar in director and the film in best film. I don't know how I could be saying that and at the same time say it stands very little chance to be nominated at the Oscars.
It could even get a double Best Actress at the Globes.
Yeah, but at the same time, I just can't put a film in with those reviews that's not also for an audience, which it's not. And I don't see why some people have said industry voters will like this better than everyone else.
I think the Golden Globes are really the only people who I could actually see going for The Room Next Door.
Yeah.
I don't think the Critics' Choice are going to do it. I don't think BAFTA's going to do it. I don't think PGA is going to do it.
Yep.
But I don't know, like if it got 6 Golden Globe nominations and they went all out and they gave it like score and screenplay, I'd be like, what the hell's going on? But I think it's just not going to happen because I don't see the potential of the movie. Could there be a resurgence for challengers to get into score, editing, directing maybe? Zendaya, Best Actress. You know, looking at Best Actress right now, it's not impossible. If the film was in Best Picture, I could see there being room for Zendaya. An original screenplay is a maybe, but I do think that Challengers seems like a young people's movie, and I'm not going to bet on it coming back. Juror number 2. We know that this is coming out this year, even after speculation that it wasn't. It'll blitz the race similarly to, you know, Richard Jewell and other Clint Eastwood films have. And, you know, maybe Toni Collette can get in. Maybe the screenplay will get some buzz, but I don't really have, like, great feeling. I mean, Clint Eastwood hasn't done anything that's been universally acclaimed in a long time. And American Sniper was more of, like, an Oscar bait war film.
I mean, Clint Eastwood's film, you just have to look at his past films and see what he's up to. He makes good films. Nothing that blows people away.
He's on a streak of minor works. Let's just put it that way.
And none of them have been nominated. So, Wicked seems like it has a lot of interest and it will do well at the box office. And got some craft elements like production design and costumes that I think could very well get nominated.
People are saying Wicked is actually good and it's a little better than you think it is, and I can accept that and still think that there's quite a distance between that and Best Picture.
I mean, it's also Wicked Part 1. Do we even need to...
Do you know that it's 2 hours and 40 minutes, which is the length of the original musical?
Yeah, and it's
what are they doing
I don't know.
to the runtime? I cannot imagine that it feels complete enough to end it at, you know, the halftime curtain.
I don't think it can get in as a Part 1.
Do you think The Wild Robot has any shot? I mean, if The Wild Robot placed at TIFF, I'd have it a little higher, and if it won TIFF, I'd really be considering it in Best Picture because this is universally acclaimed. Everybody from every section of like film discussion is loving it. Letterboxd, IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes. It's basically everybody. 4.2 Letterboxd, like 85 Metacritic. But unfortunately, that kind of acclaim would work for any other movie except for an animated film or documentary. And last year, what did we see? Spider-Verse and Boy and the Heron didn't get nominated. So they didn't even let them into score. So at this point, I cannot have enough confidence in an animated film to put that in Best Picture.
I think this is your animated feature frontrunner.
Oh, very clearly winning.
Leaving it there. We're just leaving it there. I don't think we're going beyond that this year.
That might get scored.
You know what else had hype for the score? Spider-Verse.
Yeah,
it didn't happen.
But this is a more conventional movie score.
I don't think this is going to get...
It'd be like a How to Train Your Dragon. Some think it can get adapted because it's a bit of a weaker category, but I don't think the writing is like that strong, or maybe I'm silly, but...
It needed to place at People's Choice.
Yeah.
It tried really, really hard.
It's kind of crazy that it didn't.
It didn't get there.
It is crazy.
It needs to break boundaries. It's not breaking any boundaries.
Seed of the Sacred Fig, I still see some people believing in this. After I saw it at TIFF, I really didn't believe in it because I and everybody that I talked to really felt that there was this lack of progression during the third act and feeling that it was kind of meandering by the end. I think the film resonates the most if you know about the director's story and how ballsy it was to release and make the film and what it took to make it.
Making the film in secret.
But I think what this film would need in order to get Best Picture is to win some New York or LA Critics Prizes. Drive My Car did, of course, but it doesn't seem to have like this 90 on Metacritic type of acclaim. Palme d'Or winning acclaim, maybe, that I think it would be required to see it actually break in. Now, some people are flirting with this in directing and screenplay. I think that's like a little possible, but ultimately I think it'll probably just be relegated to international feature.
Yeah, I think there's a little possibility for screenplay because Rasulov has a narrative. I still am hearing from people who are seeing it fresh that they love it, and Letterboxd is still looking really strong for it, but I don't quite think it has the critic reviews to like Drive My Car it, right? So I'm keeping it in international, and that's it for now. But I don't see it as impossible, especially in a weaker year, that it could get a resurgence.
Joker, I don't really think anybody believes in this anymore. You know, it's coming out next week and I barely hear anyone talking about it. The Letterboxd is very underwhelming on this. It has a 3.0, it's completely scattered, whereas the first film had a very unanimous Letterboxd curve.
There's not as much love for this film. It doesn't have any reviews above 80 on Metacritic. A lot of people like it, but nobody loves it. And it's just as, if not more, divisive than the first. So what are you going to do with that? You can be divisive if you have passion and people love it and they want to vote for it at number one. But here, you're just divisive. The speculation around the box office is that it's not going to do as well as the first one. That's going to completely kill the movie.
Also, Joaquin Phoenix also kind of killed the movie, too.
I'm sorry, it's dead.
It may get no nominations, actually.
It may get no nominations.
I know some people are kind of holding on to it. Oh, maybe still costumes or cinematography. And it's like, is it? Or is it just a thing that sinks? Sometimes it's hard to let go, you know, but it just happens. Other than that, I mean, The Substance.
Yeah, The Substance. I was going to talk about it. It's in my top 20.
I would throw nominations at this film.
Oh, yes.
But I don't quite see what people are seeing as in Demi Moore as a Best Actress contender. It just didn't seem like that to me. I think she's really great in it. And the narrative is there. I understand that. But, you know, I think that she would obviously be a force that would bring the movie into Best Picture in many ways.
Right. I am making a prediction that when nominations start rolling around, even with critics, she's not going to pop up as much as she needs to. She might pop up here and there, but it won't be quite enough. I would love to see The Substance get pushed by critics and get into Best Picture and get into a bunch of categories from that. That would surprise me, though. It would just surprise me.
Yeah, critics often drop the ball on this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, why aren't you nominating this? Don't you love this? And they just don't. It's also a horror movie. That's the main problem. And it's a gigantic problem. It is.
It's like a horror comedy. It is a huge uphill battle.
Yeah, it's makeup or bust.
Yeah, makeup or bust.
Unless something crazy happens where critics are going out for it really hard and it's like, wow, wow, wow.
It would be amazing if that happened, but it's only wishful thinking, unfortunately.
The Piano Lesson, I think some people are maybe holding on to this by a thread. Aside from Deadweiler, I remember very little about the film. I don't know what it is about it. It's just kind of forgettable to me. The horror at the end
it's not really
terrify enough to be like, oh, this is giving genre thrills. And other than that, it did kind of feel play-like. You know, even though it tried.
I think it was really well made, but I do weirdly agree that I'm not thinking about it much after walking out of the theater. There was a lot of effort towards making the film cinematic that I definitely applaud, but unfortunately I'm thinking this is Deadweiler or bust.
What about Here? I think that's going to get a 50 on Metacritic.
Sony's still confident about Here.
Who says they're confident?
They're saying they have great test reactions. They believe it's going to be an audience
There's
hit.
been mixed word though.
But it's just too hard to bring normies on board, and critics aren't going to like it enough. Normies are going to have to push it. People might not understand what the film's doing, why it's doing it.
Normies are going to say, why would I sit through a movie where the camera doesn't move?
Yeah.
That sounds boring. It might fail at the box office, and it might even be nightmare fuel. Nosferatu. We got a new trailer for this. I think it looks pretty good.
Yeah, I actually really like the trailer.
I'd be surprised if I were giving this film more than 4 stars, though. Something about it doesn't look spectacular to me in the way that a lot of people are hyping it up to be. Like, the studio's going around telling people, hey, like, you know, it's actually more than just a below-the-line contender. And I'm sitting here like, I would be surprised if it was a below-the-line contender. Not because the movie doesn't look well crafted enough where it would deserve some nominations, but what is it about the Robert Eggers horror remake that makes you think it's an awards contender? Like, please tell me. Please go on. The cinematography is not in black and white, folks. Yeah. I'm predicting a goose egg. And I know a lot of people are trying to predict it for a few texts, but I still maintain the goose egg.
Some pundits are putting I'm Still Here in, and I've seen I'm Still Here. I saw it at TIFF. I thought it was good. I actually didn't think it was great. So maybe I'm biased here, but I don't think the film is exceptional really in any way. Like, it tells an important story, but that's about it. I think Fernanda Torres is great in it, but she's not quite doing enough that made me think, oh, she's a real threat for Best Actress in a film where she might be the only other nominee outside of international. It's funny to see pundits like really rocketing it up in their predictions. It is sort of an audience film, and it's got some good reviews, but it's an international film. I would need to see really good reviews, like excellent reviews across the board.
Also, Queer, like, I just removed that. I watched that movie and I said, there's not a way. There's no freaking way that Queer still gets nominated after just how stylistically odd it is. It's not going to be Academy bait, folks. No way.
Some people are predicting Inside Out 2.
No, only pundits. That's it.
And like even Variety thinks it's serious enough to have at like 15 or something. I'm like,
I don't care that it's the highest grossing movie of the year. Would you predict like Deadpool?
The first Inside Out didn't get in. The second one has worse reviews. How the hell does it stand a chance? How the hell? It doesn't. It's nothing. No. Civil War. Some people think this is like a very dark horse.
Well, I'm not gonna entertain that.
We saw Maria. I don't think it's an Oscar contender except for there's a few categories actually. There's a few categories.
Yeah.
It's just like Lorraine's other films though. They didn't stand a chance in Best Picture. Neither does this. It's not even his best film. It's just well crafted and well acted. That's it. And we're not getting anything else. There's no other contenders this year. Those are your films. Most of them have been seen. We're seeing Blitz soon. We're in movie season. We're in peak movie season.
If you like the channel and you're saying so sad this video's ending, well, you should sign up for memberships. And it supports the channel in a very substantial way. We've crossed 500 members. Can we get to 1,000 one day? Multiple bonus videos a week where we talk about recent updates in film news and awards news.
Recently, you talked about the double nomination that might be impending for Saoirse Ronan and whether that boosts her chances to win by looking at historical examples of this.
Trailer reactions, you know, all the fun stuff. And we're going to be responding to top comments made on this video. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing.
What the heck do you think's going to happen to September 5?